evaluating him. We are not reading the objectives because we have done that already. So with a speech entitled Know When to Fold 'Em, let's welcome to the stage Stephen Taylor.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. Tonight, I'd like to tell you a little secret. Now, those of you who heard my C1 may have thought, well, he seems like a pretty stand-up guy, a pretty sound young man. And on the whole, you'd be right. But there was a time when you may have found me in the backroom bars of Waterloo, or the card rooms of East London, or even the casinos of Las Vegas. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about poker. Now, like many people, I started playing poker in the early 2000s during a huge surge in its popularity. In Britain, this poker boom began in 1999 when Channel 4 started broadcasting the programme Late Night Poker. Now, by today's standards, this was a pretty rudimentary televised poker competition, but it was the first time that competitive poker had ever been shown on British television. It also saw the introduction of under-the-table cameras, and these were cameras that shot through a transparent table that allowed viewers at home to see the cards that the players were holding. This revolutionised the way poker would be televised forevermore, as viewers at home could understand the tactics that were being employed. Being a university student in the early 2000s, I was a core part of this programme's late night audience, and many nights were spent playing poker with my friends. The second key element of this big surge in poker play was online poker. Now all of a sudden, players could play in poker tournaments wherever they were in the world, even in their own living room, or even on the toilet. Now, the birth of online poker led to probably the big watershed moment in poker. In 2003, a 27-year-old accountant from Atlanta, Georgia, named Chris Moneymaker, ironically, entered an online poker tournament for $40. He won, and his eventual prize was entry to the main event at the World Series of Poker. The World Series of Poker is the Olympics of Poker, a 6-week festival of poker in Las Vegas, in which all forms of the game are played in high-stakes tournaments. The main event, as the name suggests, is the headline. It's the 100 metres final. Open to anyone, as long as you can stump up the entry fee. A cool $10,000. Chris Moneymaker entered the tournament with 835 other players, and unbelievably, this was his first ever live tournament. After 5 solid days of play, he was the last man standing, and he won. He won big, to the tune of $2.5 million. All of a sudden, poker was a sport where you could go from bedroom enthusiast to world champion and multi-millionaire in a matter of months. It was a bit like a guy who's pretty good at swing ball in his back garden, beating Roger Federer in the Wimbledon final. So, what does it take to become a poker champion? Well, the first, often underestimated skill is maths. A key eye for probability and mental arithmetic is a poker player's best friend. Secondly, is an ability to interpret other players' actions and behaviour. It's this psychological aspect of the game, trying to figure out how other players tick, seeing the whites of their eyes, why online poker has never really held much appeal for me. Thirdly, the third skill can really be summed up in 2 words, and that's poker face. As much as you're trying to interpret all the other players' actions, they're trying to do exactly the same to you. And that's why you'll often see professional poker players wearing dark sunglasses or with a baseball cap pulled down tight over their face as they try and hide any involuntary tics that they might have. So, I mentioned that Chris Moneymaker's World Series victory came the first time he ever played in a live tournament, and I cannot imagine the pressure he must have felt. The first time you play poker in an environment like a card room or a casino, it's a really stressful experience. There's no friends, only strangers, and you've no way of knowing if if the guy who's winking at you is just bad at bluffing, or he's got an itchy eye. But it's the unknown quality of the people that are around you that makes poker so fascinating. Long gone are the days when the game was dominated by middle-aged, chain-smoking men with giant Stetsons on. The popularity of poker has meant all sorts of people now play at the very top level. In Britain, perhaps most famously, Victoria Corrin, the presenter of Only Connect and wife of David Mitchell, is one of the best poker players in the country. Last year, she became the first person, man or woman, to win 2 main events at the European Poker Tour. Her lifetime earnings are now in excess of over $2 million. Personally, I play far less poker than I once did. I'm not sure my wife would appreciate me going out 2 or 3 times a week as I once did. But there's a lot of memories I look back on very fondly. One in particular took place in a casino in Sydney. I was playing what's known as a cash game, so instead of paying a set entry fee to enter a tournament, you enter with whatever money you have and the chips in front of you represent real cash. I was dealt 2 queens, a pretty good starting hand. The community cards were then dealt, and these are the cards that all the players can use to try and make the best 5-card poker hand that they can. 2 more queens came out. I had 4 of a kind. I'd hit what is in known poker parlance as a monster. I knew there was nowhere I could be beaten, and my only job for the rest of the hand was trying to get as much money into the pot as possible. So I used my best acting skills. Whenever someone else bet, I would sigh like this and reach into my chips and begrudgingly put them into the centre of the table. By the end of the hand, there was $750 in the pot. Turning over my queens and revealing my 4 of a kind was a fantastic moment. I'm not sure it was so fantastic for my opponents, particularly the guy who had to be escorted from the premises because he was so angry. But as Kenny Rogers famously said, you've got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And my poker playing is pretty much stuck with playing with friends for matchsticks these days. But I would like to leave you with a quote from author Anthony Holden, which I think sums up the allure of poker to me. Whether he likes it or not, a man's character is stripped at the poker table. If the other players read him better than he can, he only has himself to blame. But if he is able and willing to see himself as others do, then he may just be a winner. Thank you very much.